She didn't break your heart. She dismantled your reality. You are standing in the rubble of a world you built entirely around her, and you cannot understand why the architect is the one who lit the fuse. You think she left you. That's a gentle lie you tell yourself to soften the blow. She didn't leave. She discarded you. She looked at the man who had given up everything for her, his time, his ambitions, his very identity, and she felt nothing but contempt. Let's be honest. You handed her the tools for your own destruction, one piece of your soul at a time, believing each sacrifice was a brick in the foundation of your love. But you weren't building a temple. You were building your own cage. Do you remember? Do you dare to remember the exact moments the steel bars locked into place? The nights you canceled plans with your friends, the ones who knew you before her, because she had a bad day and needed you to be her emotional sponge. You called it devotion. She saw it as a symptom of your emptiness, a sign that your own life held no weight. Remember the career opportunity you hesitated on, the one that would have demanded more of your time, because you were afraid it would disrupt her comfort? You called it compromise. She heard the silent scream of a man neutering his own ambition, and the sound was profoundly unattractive. Think about the conversations, the slow, imperceptible erosion of your own opinions, the movies you pretended to like, the music you stopped listening to because she found it cringe, the political and philosophical stances you softened just to avoid a pointless argument. Each concession felt small, a minor price for peace. But she wasn't seeing a peacekeeper. She was watching a man dissolve. She was watching a solid form turn into a liquid, shapelessly conforming to the container she provided. And a woman cannot respect a man she can pour into any shape she desires. She cannot desire what she does not respect. Let's go to the final scene. Not the breakup talk, filled with cliches and hollow apologies. Let's go to the moment before that. The moment the verdict was already in, and you were just a ghost waiting for the sentence to be read. Picture it. You were at that restaurant, the one you thought was your place. The air was thick with everything you weren't saying. You were talking, weren't you? Filling the dead air with pointless anecdotes about your day, desperately trying to animate the corpse of your connection. And she was looking right through you. Her eyes were focused on a point somewhere behind your head, her mind a million miles away. Her phone was on the table, face down, a dark mirror reflecting nothing. But you could feel its pull. You knew, in that gut-wrenching, cold-dread way, that you were competing with a glowing screen for the attention of the woman who was supposed to be your universe. And you were losing. In that instant, you ceased to be her partner. You were an item on her to-do list, an obstacle between her and her next dopamine hit. You were an obligation she was about to relieve herself of. The smile on her face was a mask, and underneath it was the most terrifying emotion a man can see in his partner's indifference. Not anger, sadness. The flat, gray, soul-crushing emptiness of absolute indifference. You operated under the fatal assumption that love is earned through servitude. That by making her the center of your gravitational field, you would become essential to her existence. Instead, you learned the hard way about a fundamental, brutal law of power and attraction. A law that has no regard for your good intentions. The law states that a man who abandons his own center of gravity does not become a cherished moon, orbiting his sun. He becomes a piece of debris, pulled in, burned up, and forgotten. He signals to the world, and most importantly to her, that his own kingdom is barren. He is a king with no throne, no subjects, no purpose of his own. The queen has no use for a king who rules over nothing. She doesn't see devotion, she sees a void. She sees a vacuum that is trying to siphon life from her world, because his is empty. And nature, especially human nature, does not respect a vacuum. It finds it repulsive. You were discarded because you became weightless. And now you are here, adrift in the cold silence, wondering how your total investment yielded a return of absolute contempt. You believe the answer is buried in a complex labyrinth of emotions and miscommunication. It is not. The answer is savagely simple, and it is a tactical blueprint. By the end of this transmission, you will not only understand the precise psychological weapon she instinctively used to dismantle you, but you will learn how to forge an arsenal of your own, not of revenge, but of unshakable self-possession. A power so fundamental that it will make you completely unrecognizable to the man you are right now. The real question is not what happened. The question is, are you willing to do what is necessary to ensure it never happens again? Because the man she left must be executed for the man you are about to become. Before we dismantle the architecture of your defeat and rebuild you from the ground up, you must make a choice. If you are ready to reclaim your power, subscribe to Psychological Dominion now. Activate all notifications, because every video is a strategic briefing you cannot afford to miss. Like this video to signal your commitment to this war. And in the comments below, I want you to declare your battlefield. Tell me about the moment you felt your power slip away. That moment of contempt. That look of indifference that burned itself into your memory. Do not share it for sympathy. Share it as a declaration that it will never happen again. Let's perform the autopsy. Your defeat was not a single catastrophic event. It was a disease that metastasized in the dark, a series of small internal hemorrhages you dismissed as the cost of love. You think her leaving was the cause of death. It was merely the signing of the certificate. The death occurred long before, in the quiet concessions and the silent surrenders. We must dissect this process with the cold precision of a surgeon, because understanding the pathology is the only way to develop the cure. Your fall from power happened in stages, each one a strategic blunder that seemed insignificant at the time. The first stage was emotional concession. It began subtly. It always does. It was a conversation about a movie she loved and you found mediocre. You said, "Yeah, it was pretty good," just to see her smile, to avoid the friction of a minor disagreement. It felt harmless, a white lie for the sake of harmony. But it wasn't harmless. It was a test. She was unconsciously probing the perimeter of your reality, and you showed her there was no fence. You communicated a devastating piece of intelligence. My truth is negotiable. Your emotional comfort is more valuable than my authentic opinion. She tested. You yielded. She won. This tiny act of self-betrayal established a precedent. You taught her that your convictions were soft, that your internal world could be redecorated to match hers. From that point on, every time you softened an opinion, held back a critique, or feigned interest in something that bored you to tears, you were reinforcing that lesson. You weren't being agreeable. You were being conquestable. You were slowly erasing yourself, and you can't expect someone to desire a blank page. This led directly to the second stage, the loss of frame control. A man's frame is his reality, his mission, his purpose. It is the gravitational field that emanates from him. When your frame is strong, others are pulled into your orbit. When it is weak, you are pulled into theirs. Your frame began to buckle the first time you changed your plans for her non-emergency. Remember? You had a gym session scheduled, or plans to work on that personal project you were passionate about, or a night out with the friends who anchor you to your own identity. Then her text arrived. "I had a bad day. Can you come over?" There was no crisis, no fire, just a dip in her emotional state. And you, believing this was your duty as the good boyfriend, dropped everything. You abandoned your world to become a temporary resident in hers. You thought you were showing her she was your priority. What you actually showed her was that you had no priorities. Your mission was secondary to her mood. A man with a mission is a force of nature. A man whose mission is a woman's fleeting emotions is a utility. He is a tool she can pick up when she's feeling down and put back in the box when she's done. Each time you canceled on your friends, postponed your work, or skipped a workout to cater to her whim, you were handing her the controls to your life. You were no longer the pilot. You were a passenger, and your destination was wherever she felt like going that day. Once you have no frame, you enter the third desperate stage, validation seeking. Your self-worth, having been detached from your own mission and principles, now needed a new anchor. Found one in her approval. You began to live for the small signs of her favor. You would tell a joke, and your eyes would flick to her, not to share the humor, but to check if she laughed. You would make a decision about your career, and the first question in your mind was not, "Is this good for me?" but "What will she think?" Her opinion became the metric for your success. This is a psychological prison. You become a performer, and she is the one-woman audience who may or may not applaud. Start dressing for her, talking for her, even thinking for her. You outsource your sense of self. This is profoundly repulsive to the feminine psyche. A woman is attracted to a man who is a source of certainty in a chaotic world. She sees that he is looking to her for his own certainty. The entire structure of attraction collapses. He is looking for a rock, and she has found a mirror. And the reflection she sees is not of a powerful man, but of her own influence, which only highlights his emptiness. This dependency inevitably decays into the fourth stage, affective bondage. At this point, you are no longer an independent emotional entity. Your moods are inextricably linked to hers. If she wakes up happy, you have a good day. If she is distant or irritable, your entire world is chaos. You walk on eggshells, constantly monitoring her emotional temperature, trying to solve her moods as if they were your personal responsibility. You become her emotional janitor, rushing to clean up any negative feelings, not for her sake, but for your own, because you can no longer tolerate the instability. This is the point of no return. You have made her the sun, and you are just a planetoid, unable to generate your own heat. You need her light to feel alive. This is not love, it is addiction. And like any addict, you are completely at the mercy of your dealer. She now holds all the power, not because she is a masterful manipulator, but because you willingly handed her the keys to your own emotional regulation system. She doesn't have to control you, she just has to control herself, and you will follow suit. Her silence is dominance, not inattention. She pulls away, you panic, you scramble. You do anything to get your fix of her approval, which only makes you more pathetic in her eyes. The final pathetic act is breaking the silence. Not her silence, but yours. The moment the pressure becomes too much and you commit the ultimate strategic blunder, you verbalize your neediness. It comes out in the form of, "We need to talk," or "Is everything okay with us?" Or the truly fatal question, "Do you still love me?" You think you are opening a channel for honest communication. What you are actually doing is holding up a giant neon sign that flashes, "I am insecure. I am weak. I am terrified of losing you because I have nothing else." You're asking her for reassurance, which is like asking your enemy for ammunition. A woman cannot reassure a man into being the man she wants him to be. His strength must be innate, not given to him by her. When you ask for that reassurance, you confirm all of her doubts. You prove to her that the man she was once attracted to, the man who had his own life, his own mind, his own gravity, is gone. In his place is a frightened boy, and she is not his mother. Any apology you make during this phase is a death blow. When you said you were sorry for being distant or for upsetting her, when you weren't even sure what you did, you were not seeking forgiveness. You were seeking a return to the status quo. When you apologized, you signed your surrender. You admitted that her emotional state was the final arbiter of truth in the relationship. She tested you, and you failed. These mistakes are not confined to romance. At work, you are the man who says yes to every project, who never pushes back on an unreasonable deadline. You think it makes you a team player. Your superiors see you as a reliable workhorse with no ambition of his own, easily passed over for the man who knows his own value and isn't afraid to state it. With your friends, you're the one who always adapts, the one whose opinion is never the deciding factor. You are liked, but you are not respected. You are convenient. And convenience is the opposite of power. The fall is invisible because it feels like you're being good. You're being accommodating, kind, selfless. Society sells you this lie. It tells you that to be a good man is to put others first. But it fails to give you the critical addendum. You cannot put others first if you do not have a first of your own. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You were not being selfless, you were being selfless. You had no self to give. Now you might be thinking, but relationships are about compromise. I was just trying to be a good partner. This is the rationalization of the defeated. Let me be brutally clear. Compromise is a negotiation between two sovereign powers. It is a treaty signed on a field of mutual respect. You were not compromising. You were making unconditional surrenders. You gave up territory, your time, your opinions, your ambitions, and got nothing in return except the temporary illusion of peace. It was the peace of an occupied nation. You were not a partner, you were a vassal. The brutal truth is this: no one is coming to save you. Your redemption will not be found in her understanding or her pity. It will be forged in the fire of your own resurrected will. You must stop seeing this as a failure of love and see it for what it is: a failure of strategy. If you are ready to stop being a casualty and start being a strategist, then your training must be subscribe to Psychological Dominion and activate all notifications. This is not entertainment. This is your new operating manual. Like this video as a formal declaration that your days of surrender are over. And now, I want you to perform your first act of cold analysis. Go to the comments and answer this. What was the first lie you told yourself to keep the peace? What was that first small compromise that you now recognize was the beginning of your unconditional surrender? Do not write a paragraph. Write a sentence. A cold, hard admission of your first strategic error. Acknowledge the first crack in your own foundation. This is the first step to rebuilding it with steel. There is no going back for the weak man. There is only the construction of the new. The man she discarded must be burned on a pyre of your own making, and from his ashes a different entity must rise. This is not a process of healing. Healing is for wounds. This is a process of reforging. You are not recovering, you are rearming. The path forward is not paved with affirmations or emotional processing. It is a cold, calculated, tactical campaign, and your own mind is the battlefield. The first commands of this war are absolute. Cut the excess. Install silence. Control the reaction. These are not suggestions. They are the prime directives for your resurrection. Let's begin with the first command. Cut the excess. This means you initiate a complete and total withdrawal. It is not a pause. It is an amputation. You will sever every line of communication, every digital tether, every sentimental artifact that connects you to your past self. This is the strategy of reinstalling scarcity. You became common. You were always available, always responsive, an open resource to be tapped at her convenience. Your value plummeted because your supply was infinite. To restore value, you must become finite. You must become absent. This means you block her number. You block her on every social media platform. You do not do this with an announcement. You do not send a final, dramatic text. An executioner does not warn the condemned. He simply pulls the lever. Your silence is the lever. An announcement is a plea for a reaction. It is a negotiation. You are done negotiating. You are now dictating terms to the universe by your actions alone. Every photo, every old message, every gift she ever gave you is a psychological anchor to the man you are executing. You will delete them. You will throw them away. You will perform a ritual of erasure. This is not about erasing her. It is about erasing the man who knelt before her. You are clearing the throne room of your mind. No ghost from the old regime can be allowed to remain. This initial, brutal act of self-discipline is the foundation. Without it, everything else will crumble. You are signaling to yourself, before anyone else, that the old world is dead and you are the one who burned it. The second command follows. Install silence. This is more than just not talking to her. This is the weaponization of your absence. Before, your silence was a question mark. It was the pause before you inevitably caved. Now, your silence is a period. It is a definitive statement. It is a wall she will run into, and she will find it is made of steel. Opposing silence means that when she, inevitably, attempts to breach your new perimeter, through a mutual friend, a new account, an email from an old address, your response is nothing. Not a cold reply, not an angry retort. Absolute, deafening, soul-crushing silence. You must understand the power dynamics at play. Her final image of you was of a man desperate for connection, a man who would do anything for a scrap of her attention. Every time you refuse to give it, you are actively rewriting that image in her mind. You are forcing her to reconcile two completely different versions of you. The pleading subordinate she discarded, and the silent, immovable fortress that now stands where he used to be. The human mind abhors a vacuum. Her mind will race to fill the void your silence creates. Is he angry? Did he meet someone else? Does he not care at all? Your silence forces her to ask questions, and the person asking the questions is the person who is not in control. You are no longer reacting to her reality. You are forcing her to react to your absence. Do not reconquer. Replace with a sharper silence. Be an absence that carries weight, not a presence that begs. This silence extends inward. You will silence the voice in your own head that wants to check on her, the one that crafts imaginary conversations. You starve that voice until it dies. With the perimeter secured and silence installed, you execute the third command: control the reaction. This is the internal war. You operated on an externalized emotional system, your moods dictated by her approval. You will now internalize your locus of control. This is not about pretending not to feel. It is about feeling the surge of anger, of loss, of nostalgia, and refusing to grant it control of your actions. You will feel the impulse to break your silence, to check her profile through a friend's account. You will acknowledge the impulse as a ghost signal from the weak man you killed, and you will let it pass. You control the reaction by redirecting the energy. You will take every ounce of emotional fallout and channel it into the 4 pillars of masculine hierarchy: physical, the financial, the social, and the symbolic. This is your new mission. This is the plan, not the hope. Reconstruction begins with the physical pillar. The body is the vessel of the will. A weak body houses a weak mind. You will go to the gym not as a hobby, but as a religious rite. Push, pull, and lift until the man in the mirror is unrecognizable. Each drop of sweat is a purification. Each rep is an act of rebellion against the man you were. You are not getting in shape for her. You are forging a new physical presence that communicates power before you ever speak a word. You are building armor. Simultaneously, you attack the financial pillar. The man she left was likely complacent, his ambitions softened by the narcotic of her comfort. That ends now. You will pour the rage and obsession that you once dedicated to her into your work, your career, your enterprise. You will work longer, smarter, and with a ferocity that borders on terrifying. Money is not just currency. It is a form of solidified power. It buys freedom. It buys options. It is a tangible measure of your impact on the world. Your goal is to build a financial fortress so high that the life you lived with her looks like a distant valley. Next, you rebuild the social pillar, but with new rules of engagement. You will reconnect with the friends you neglected, not to cry on their shoulders, but to re-engage in the rites of masculine camaraderie. But more than that, you will expand your circle. You will learn to network, to move through social environments with a quiet confidence that draws people in. You will become a man of connections, a node of influence. Your social value is not determined by one person's validation, but by the respect you command in a network of many. A man who wants to be loved will be discarded. A man who imposes his presence will be feared. You are not seeking love. You are building a presence that cannot be ignored. Finally, you construct the symbolic pillar. This is your internal kingdom. What do you stand for? What are your non-negotiable principles? The old you was a blank slate. The new you is a man of defined purpose and unshakable conviction. You will read the books you put off. You will study philosophy, strategy, history. You will cultivate a mind so sharp and a frame so solid that it acts as a gravitational force. This is the source of true dominance. Not control over others, but absolute control over yourself. Your reality becomes the dominant reality because it is built on a foundation of unyielding principle. It is not a 30-day plan. This is a new identity. There will come a day when she sees you or hears of you. She will not see the man she left. She will see a man who operates on a completely different plane of existence. A man who is physically formidable, financially powerful, socially connected, and intellectually sovereign. And in that moment, she will feel the one emotion that is the antidote to contempt, intimidation. Not because you are a threat to her, but because your transformation is an indictment of her judgment. You became a king after she declared you a peasant. And that is a psychological checkmate from which there is no recovery. Your mission is clear. The weak man is dead, and you are the architect of his replacement. This is a war declared on your own mediocrity. If you are ready to accept the terms of this war and forge yourself into a weapon, cement your allegiance. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion, Activate all notifications, for each transmission is a new schematic for your arsenal. Like this video to signal that you have chosen reconstruction over ruin. And in the comments, I want a declaration of intent. Of the 4 pillars of power, the physical, the financial, the social, and the symbolic. Which one did you let decay the most in your servitude? And which one will you now forge into your primary weapon? This is not a confession. This is you naming your first target. The time will come. It is an inevitability written into the code of human nature. After months, maybe years, of your disciplined silence, after you have poured every ounce of your focus into forging the 4 pillars of your new empire, a signal will emerge from the past. A text message. A call from a number you don't have saved but instinctively recognize. A coincidental appearance at a place you used to frequent. It will arrive, and in that moment, the man you were will be tested against the man you have become. The ghost will face its creator. For the man you were, this was the moment he fantasized about. The moment she comes back, filled with regret, realizing the magnitude of her mistake. He imagined a cinematic reunion, a tearful apology he could graciously accept. A victory lap where he finally gets the validation he craved. The man you have become knows this is not a moment for reconciliation. It is the final exam. It is a diagnostic test to see if the old programming has been truly erased. Her message will be casual, a hook baited with nostalgia. Hey, was just thinking about that little cafe we used to love. Hope you're doing well. It is a probe, a reconnaissance mission sent to gauge your defenses. She is testing to see if the puppet still has strings. The old you would have felt a jolt of adrenaline, a cocktail of panic and hope. His fingers would have trembled as he typed and deleted a dozen different replies. Eager, angry, cool. He would have agonized over the perfect response, one that would show he was doing well, but not so well that the door was closed. His entire emotional state would be hijacked by a dozen words on a screen. The man you are now feels nothing. You see the text not as a message from a former lover but as a data point. You analyze it with the cold detachment of a general observing enemy troop movements. What is the objective? To disrupt your peace, to reclaim a sliver of your attention, to confirm she still holds power over your emotional state. And what is the correct strategic response to an enemy probe? Not a counterattack, not a negotiation. You demonstrate that the territory she seeks to enter is no longer on her map. You give her the one thing that will dismantle her reality more than any angry words or boasts of success. You give her silence. A profound, absolute, and final silence. This is not the same silence you deployed in the beginning. That was the silence of a man in recovery, a tactical withdrawal to rebuild his forces. This is the silence of a king who cannot be bothered by the petitions of a commoner from a land he no longer rules. Your lack of response is not a tactic to make her want you more. You are long past that game. Your lack of response is a statement of fact. Her existence is no longer relevant to your operational reality. You do not reply because you are busy. You are busy building your company. You are busy in the middle of a record-setting lift at the gym. You are busy laughing with a woman whose eyes reflect respect, not contempt. You are busy living a life so full and so aligned with your own purpose that her ghost cannot find any space to occupy. You have not just moved on. You have ascended to a plane she cannot reach. Her reality will begin to fracture. She discarded a man she knew she could control, a man whose emotional buttons she had memorized. But the person who received her message is an unknown variable. Silence creates a void where her certainty used to be. In that void, her mind will plant seeds of doubt, and they will grow into forests of insecurity. He didn't even reply. He must hate me. That's the first assumption, the one that still grants her importance. But as the days and weeks pass with no response, a more terrifying thought will emerge. What if he doesn't hate me? What if he feels nothing at all? This is the true psychological checkmate. Anger is a connection. Hate is a connection. They are investments of emotional energy. Indifference is a closed door. It is the erasure of her significance. You have become a black hole to her ego, Any attempt at connection she sends is simply pulled in and extinguished without a trace. You have to understand the fundamental shift in the power dynamic. The entire time you were together, you were playing her game on her board. You were a piece she moved according to her whims. When she left, she didn't just knock your piece off the board. She flipped the entire table over and walked away, convinced she had won. But you did something she never anticipated. You didn't try to set the board back up. You didn't beg to play again. You walked away from the table, left the room, and began building your own stadium. You are not playing her game anymore. You are not even in the same league. Her attempt to reconnect is the equivalent of a local chess club champion trying to get the attention of a grandmaster in the middle of a world championship. The grandmaster doesn't even notice. This is the nature of emotional revenge. It is not an active pursuit. It is the passive consequence of your own elevation. Your success becomes your vengeance. Your peace becomes your vengeance. Your utter, unshakable indifference to her existence is the final, brutal, closing argument. She didn't break your heart. She broke your cage, and you flew out. Now she stands on the ground, looking up at a man who has learned to command the skies, and she is irrelevant. The respect you once begged for is now an unspoken fact, imposed by the sheer gravitational force of the man you have become. You do not need her to acknowledge it. Power does not require validation from those who do not possess it. It simply is. The man she left had to be executed for the man you are to live. And his legacy is not found in winning her back. His legacy is the empire you built upon his ashes, a kingdom she will never have a visa to enter. You did not lose her. You lost the weakness that made you hers. The day she begins to doubt the decision she made is the day your victory is complete. But you will not be there to see it. You will be too busy ruling your own world. Do not ignore her out of anger. Ignore her because your attention has become the most valuable currency you possess, and she no longer has the credit to afford it. If this is the reality you choose to build, then your training is not over. It has just begun. Solidify your commitment to this new order. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion and activate all notifications, ensuring you never miss a strategic command. Give this video a like as a symbol of the execution of your weaker self. And in the comments below, answer this one final question. What is the first and most important law you will write for your new sovereign kingdom? The non-negotiable principle you will live by from this day forward. Declare your new constitution. The man she wanted was the man you became, long after she ceased to be worthy of him.